husband went home earlier from a work party and I got loose W/his boss the day after he found out. Hey Reddit, I'm Melinda, and I've been a long-time lurker, but this is actually my first time posting because I want to share a piece of my life that I never thought I'd be discussing here. You see, everyone needs an outlet sometimes, a place to spill their thoughts and maybe seek advice from strangers who can offer a fresh perspective. Let me give you a tiny little backstory first, though. My husband Leon and I have been on quite the journey. We go way back to high school where our paths first crossed. Funny thing is, I wasn't too keen on Leon. I thought he was way too nice, but life has a way of surprising us. Over time, I warmed up to him and eventually I fell in love. Fast forward to today, and we've been married for 4 years and been through a lot together. Leon's career is thriving and so he is earning a lot. I, on the other hand, am a small online business owner, trying to get my small business off the ground. It hasn't been easy, and so I'm more of a stay-at-home wife and business owner. Leon and I don't have kids yet as we wanted to wait until our mid-30s, when we were way more experienced and matured. Of course, with every advantage comes a disadvantage, so as Leon dove deeper into his demanding job, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of resentment creeping in. While he hustled at work, I found myself falling into a rut at home. Instead of chasing my dreams or being proactive, I often lounged around binge-watching shows and snacking without purpose. I was going through a real roller coaster of emotions. You see, my online business wasn't taking off like I had hoped, no matter how hard I hustled. Leon, my husband, was like my cheerleader, always pushing me forward and telling me how great I was. But deep down, his encouragement sometimes felt like a subtle reminder of my business struggles. It's not like Leon was trying to put me down or anything. He genuinely believed in me and wanted me to succeed. But it's funny how the mind works, right? His words of support often highlighted my own doubts and insecurities. While he was soaring in his career, I felt like I was stuck in neutral, trying to figure out how to make my business dreams a reality. I couldn't help but compare myself to Leon. His success seemed to magnify my own shortcomings, making me feel like I was falling behind. I wanted to be a boss babe, a successful entrepreneur making waves online. But instead, I was grappling with self-doubt and feeling like I was constantly playing catch-up. So yeah, it was a very tough time trying to balance my dreams with the reality of where I was at in my business journey. Despite Leon's efforts to cheer me up, I still felt stuck and unsatisfied. He kept telling me I could do great things, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being stuck in a rut. So there was always this perpetual gap between me and Leon. So when I heard about the work party, I jumped at the chance. It wasn't just about having a good time. I saw it as a way to meet new people and maybe find some opportunities to boost my online business. I was hoping it could kickstart something new and exciting in my life. How'd the whole shitstorm go down and what party am I talking about? You see, the company my husband worked at was hosting a work party to celebrate the CEO hitting 60. They had a private party at home but still wanted to celebrate with the employees, hence the work party, and they were all allowed to bring plus ones. Initially, I was really excited about the upcoming work bash, not just because it promised a good time and that I would get to network, but also because I was itching to meet my husband's boss, who happened to be the CEO's grandson. Now, why was I so curious about meeting the boss? Well, let's rewind a bit and let me give you a bit of the backstory. You see, my husband had his sights set on a promotion at work and he had warned it. He'd put in the hard work, proved his capabilities, and was eagerly waiting for that pat on the back he rightly deserved. But life threw a curveball, or should I say fate had other plans in store. The CEO's grandson, who actually lacked a lot in terms of experience but had family connections, swooped in and nabbed the role my husband had been eyeing. Naturally, this didn't sit well with him at first. It felt like nepotism had muscled in and overshadowed his merit. Despite this setback, the company tried to make amends. They had a heart-to-heart with my husband, acknowledged the awkward situation, said sorry for the hassle caused, and assured him that the grandson's stint was temporary. This softened my husband's stance considerably. He's not one to hold grudges, especially when someone owns up to their mistakes and offers a genuine apology. Now my husband's got a sunny disposition. He's the kind of guy who bounces back from setbacks with a smile and doesn't let work woes drag him down at home. His positive outlook often outweighs any frustrations, and he prefers looking at the bright side, even when things don't go as planned. He did complain a bit afterwards, especially since the CEO's grandson was very inexperienced, and so he slowed them all down, and that he was also lazy, but my husband is a leave work shit at work, so his complaints were always very, very short. As for me, I got a tad bit nosy about my husband's boss, did a bit of social media stalking, and found out a few things about him, like his age, way younger than my hubby, and some random stuff like the fact that his name was Jaden. But then, life got busy, and I kind of forgot about it, until the work party popped up on the radar. The thought of going to the party, rubbing elbows with my husband's colleagues, and maybe getting a sneak peek into the office dynamics got me all curious again. I can be a bit of a gossip sometimes. If I did know what was going to go down, though, maybe I honestly would have just skipped it, because no amount of thrill or fun that I had there can compare to the fact that I might lose my marriage. The day of the much-anticipated party finally arrived, and let me tell you, I was buzzing with excitement. I even went out and bought a brand new dress just for the occasion. Call it silly or maybe a tad bit extra. But hey, who doesn't love dressing up for a party, right? So there I was, all dolled up and ready to rock the night away. We arrived at the venue, and I must admit, I hadn't been to many of my husband's company parties before. But I have hung out with his work buddies and their partners on several occasions, so I knew a handful of faces in the crowd. The atmosphere was lively, the music was really pumping, and everyone seemed to be in high spirits. It was shaping up to be one heck of a night. Well, as the evening progressed, the fun level spared, maybe a bit too much. I found myself caught up in so much fun, laughter, conversations, and the occasional dance move. Time flew by, and before I knew it, my husband leaned over and mentioned he had a pounding headache and wanted to call it a night. Now, normally I'd be the first to jump in and say, "Let's go, honey," but not this time. Nope, not when the party was still in full swing, and I was having a blast. To be honest, the party should have ended hours ago. The CEO had already left, but most of the CO workers insisted on staying. So I did what any party enthusiast would do. I waved off his concerns, flashed a playful grin, and insisted he head home without me. I assured him I'd figure out a ride back, whether it was hailing a cab or summoning an Uber. After all, I was having too much fun to call it quits just yet. In fact, all my plans to network were out of my head by then. Well, my husband initially tried to stay at the party for me, but as the night wore on at the party, my husband's headache didn't seem to let up. He kept insisting that we should head home. His concern was very evident in his furrowed brows and concerned tone. But I was having too much fun to call it quits just yet. I kept telling and reassuring him that I would be fine and that I would just figure a ride home or call an Uber or something so he was free to leave. Despite his reluctance, Leon finally relented and left, even though he was very worried. He even told me to give him a call to come pick me up if I felt unsafe about ordering an Uber. With Leon gone, I continued to enjoy the festivities, mingling with acquaintances and sipping on my drink. However, as the night got darker and darker, the alcohol began to take its toll, and I started feeling a bit lightheaded. I needed a breath of fresh air, so I made my way to a quiet corner of the room and settled into a seat. It was then that I noticed a figure approaching me out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, and it was my husband's boss, who had arrived fashionably late to the party. While Leon hadn't formally introduced us earlier in the evening, I was pretty sure I recognized him from his occasional glances in our direction, and because I recognized him from the pictures on his Instagram. He took a seat beside me, and I couldn't help but notice how strikingly handsome he was. His presence was magnetic, and immediately I found myself drawn to his charm and the way he just looked so confident. So we literally sat in that quiet corner, still feeling a bit tipsy. We chatted about all sorts of things, from silly jokes to deeper conversations. The atmosphere was just so relaxed, as stupid as it may sound, and we both seemed to be enjoying each other's company a lot. Our talk got more playful, with huge hints of flirtation here and there. I couldn't help but laugh at his witty remarks, and I even found myself leaning in closer as we shared stories. It felt like we were in our little bubble, unaware of the rest of the room around us. The alcohol made me a bit bolder too, and I responded to his teasing with a playful and encouraging attitude. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything else but the fun we were having and the connection we seemed to share. The alcohol had me feeling really lightheaded and carefree. We kept teasing each other and even poured out more drinks. I started feeling a bit tipsy. So when he suggested dancing, I didn't hesitate and agreed right away. We hit the dance floor and things got pretty loose. I even started twerking and grinding on him. A huge error on my part, to be honest. At that moment, I forgot I was at my husband's work party or that people knew me there. It felt like I was back in college, single and ready to mingle, enjoying the thrill of the moment. Even though I was technically married, I reminisced about my college days when I used to party and flirt without a care in the world. I would lie at parties or even to people that I was single because I honestly loved the freedom of it. I even cheated on my husband a ton of times back then, but I never told him about it, and I never did it again after we got married. In fact, I swore that it was a secret that I would take the grave. By this time, Jaden and I were dancing very erotically, and when he suggested we step outside for some fresh air, I didn't hesitate. Maybe it was the alcohol or some other part of my brain taking over and speaking, because honestly, that couldn't have been me. I immediately found myself agreeing and following him outside. After Jaden and I talked and flirted for a while at the party, we ended up dancing together quite intimately. When he suggested we go outside, I agreed without hesitation. We searched for a secluded spot but couldn't find one, so we went to his car. There, things escalated and we started making out, and it transitioned into full-blown sex. We went at it for a while. I'm still so ashamed just by typing it. I honestly don't know why I even did that with my husband's boss. It must have been the alcohol or something. I regret it so much. Anyways, by the time we finished, I was way sober and now internally panicking. I really wanted to just get home. I wanted to call an Uber or something, but Jaden offered to drop me off. And though I hesitated, I accepted. I didn't even bother going back in to check if the party had died out yet. On the way home, I tried to come up with excuses to explain why his boss dropped me off just in case my husband wasn't asleep yet. But I knew I couldn't tell my husband the truth. The guilt and fear were overwhelming. Cheating was like a huge deal, and a huge deal breaker not just for my husband but for me too. I sound like a hypocrite saying this after I cheated. I knew if my husband saw my boss dropping me off, he would be a bit curious and would ask why I didn't just call him to come pick me up. So I decided I would just tell him. His boss saw me waiting for an Uber and offered to drop me since it was along his way. After Jaden dropped me off, I walked into the house, and of course, Leon was still up. He saw his boss dropping me off and asked about it. I quickly came up with a story saying Jaden saw me waiting for an Uber and offered me a ride since it was on his way. Leon bought it without much fuss. I wasn't really surprised. He was a very trusting person. That night, I felt guilty as hell and decided to make it up to Leon. I went all out, cooking his favorite meal, giving him a relaxing massage, and pouring my heart out about wanting to fix our relationship. I owned up to my past behavior, apologizing for the times I snapped at him, blaming it on my own insecurities and overthinking. Leon was a bit suspicious, but I just told him I noticed a few of his coworkers and how close they were to their partners and that I missed that for us. Our talk was real, raw, and heartfelt. I wanted to show Leon how much I cared and how serious I was about making things better, even though I couldn't bring myself to confess my mistake. I hoped my efforts would speak louder than words and help bridge the gap between us. The next day, I woke up feeling determined to fix things. I suggested we have a spontaneous date day, something we hadn't done in ages. Leon was surprisingly excited about it. It had been a while since I had shown so much interest in our marriage, so he didn't hesitate. He called in sick or used a holiday day from work. I didn't catch the specifics of the call, but I was glad he agreed. Our date day was amazing. We explored new spots around town, did activities we both enjoyed, and just had a blast together. It felt like we were back in the early days of our relationship, full of excitement and real connection. Spending that day with Leon made me realize how much I had been missing out on because of my insecurities and past mistakes. Being with him on that day reminded me of how deeply I love him and how much I regretted messing up. It was tough to face, but it also motivated me to work harder on myself and our relationship, to never take what we have for granted again. Well, if things remained like that, I wouldn't be here typing my damn story out for you internet strangers, so yeah, the following day, reality hit hard. As Leon headed off to work, I felt a mix of relief from our successful date day and lingering guilt over what had transpired with his boss. Little did I know, Leon's nosy co-workers wasted no time in sharing every detail of the party with him. Some even had videos of me dancing and getting cozy with his boss, and they made sure to send them to him immediately. Now, apparently Leon's boss also had a bit of a reputation for being promiscuous, which only fueled the fire of curiosity when Leon returned home that evening. The moment he stepped through the door, I could sense something was off. His demeanor was different, and there was just this tension in the air that hadn't been there before. Well, I tried to act casual, asking him about his day and how everything went. But his response wasn't what I expected. He just muttered, "Horrible." I was worried, so I probed further, asking him what had happened. I think that was when frustration burst out as he looked straight at me and asked, "How would you feel if your coworkers were sending you videos of your wife twerking for your boss? It'd suck, right?" I was stunned. I froze because what the fuck are you supposed to do when hit with a question like that? He then left to go inside and change. It's been about 5 hours since this happened and he has been avoiding me. I haven't even directly approached him because I don't even know what to say. I'm just wondering how much he knows. If he knows I slept with his boss, he'll probably never forgive me. But if all he knows about is the dancing, then he could probably forgive me for that. I also don't want to approach him without knowing how much he knows, because if I go and I apologize for the sex, then he might be shocked because he didn't know, and I just exposed myself. But if I go deny everything else and just apologize for the dancing, then he will probably get angry that I tried to lie to him, and it'll make him doubt me and he'll never forgive me. So help Reddit? I would really appreciate it. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been quite a ride since my last post. I wasn't expecting such a massive response, and with that came a wave of both positive and negative comments. The hate and crazy messages absolutely flooded in, but amidst them were some genuinely helpful suggestions, like therapy and couples counseling. Of course, these options are on the table only if Leon agrees to them. I understand the criticisms about hiding my mistake and the gravity of cheating, but let's face it, we're all flawed humans capable of making mistakes. I'm not excusing my actions, but I refuse to let one drunken mistake define our entire marriage. After all, who wouldn't try to salvage what's left of their relationship? To those hurling hurtful words and accusations, I say, whatever. Your judgments don't define me, and everyone has skeletons in their closet. It's easy to point fingers from behind a screen, but life isn't that black and white. We all have our struggles and lapses in judgment. As for Leon, he's been avoiding me since the incident. Today, he took a day off from work and went for a run. I'm waiting for him to return so we can have a much-needed conversation. I'll update you all once we've talked things out. Update. Hey everyone, it's been a rough couple of days, about a week I think. I know I said I would update sooner, but I just didn't have the heart to. Also, I'm sorry if my words are rough and to the point without my usual ranting style, but I'm just so tired from crying so much. I mustered up the courage to talk to Leon, and it was heartbreaking. He looked devastated, worn out, nothing like the cheerful person I knew. I felt such a heavy wave of guilt wash over me when I saw the pain in his eyes. I knew we couldn't keep avoiding this, so I told him we needed to talk like adults. Leon agreed to talk, but made it clear that in his eyes there was nothing left to discuss. He didn't even mince words. He wanted a divorce and had no intention of forgiving me for what I did. I tried to downplay the whole thing initially, saying it was just dancing with his boss, but Leon saw right through it. He knew the truth, that I had slept with his boss. He didn't hold back his disappointment, telling me how much it hurt that I tried to lie about it. The fact that his boss had a reputation for being promiscuous only made matters worse. He said his boss liked to boast about shit like that, and that even if I had lied, he would have still found out from someone else that his boss would have told. I tried every excuse in the book, tears included, but it was futile. He said our marriage was over and my actions had sealed our fate. Kinda ironic, isn't it? The worst part? He didn't even have the heart to tell me directly to leave. Instead, he called my parents, and they showed up the next day to pack up my things. I wanted to fight for us, to stay and work things out, and I also wanted to punish Leon and stress him too. Even though it was Leon's house, legally I had a right to stay in the house as it was my place of residence, and Leon would need to go through a lengthy eviction process. Part of me wanted to make him go through that just to feel some semblance of justice, but my parents convinced me to leave. This will probably be my final update. The comments and messages I've been receiving also haven't been helpful at all, and I know that after posting this, there will likely be more mocking and judgmental comments about how I deserve everything that's happening. So I've decided to delete this account after sharing this update. As of now, I haven't been served with divorce papers yet, but I know it's just a matter of time before it happens. The situation is even tougher because we don't live in a no-fault state, which means I have poor chances in court. I've been reflecting a lot, and I can't deny that I played a significant role in the breakdown of my marriage. I know I made mistakes, and I acknowledge that I deserve to face the consequences of those actions. I'm trying to come to terms with the end of a chapter I never wanted to close. It's a painful lesson learned, and all I can do now is try to pick up the pieces and move forward, no matter how difficult it may be. Thank you to those who offered kind words and support amidst the negativity. I'll be moving on from this account and focusing on facing the reality of my situation. Take care, everyone.